Hey everybody, welcome to February's masterclass with Warrior Rising. It is really cool to see familiar names in the chat. Hi Dan, hi Renee. I know a lot of you are here for Chachi, who is our speaker tonight. I'm so excited to have him here. I don't know if you guys have seen my post, but Chachi is a mentor to me. I've worked with him before, and I've learned so much from him. So I'm really excited for you to learn from him as well. So Chachi, I'd love for you to come on, and I just want to just praise you for a second. So, Chachi spent 25 years in the Air Force. It's 25, right? 25 years in the Air Force. And after that, he went on to work for a little company you guys might have heard of called Black Rifle Coffee Company, which is where I met him, working in the philanthropy part. And now he founded a leadership consulting firm that he's had for about 7 years. So he has a very storied history, which I'm just scratching the surface of. But Chachi, I will let you fully introduce yourself. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. And I know that everybody is going to get a lot out of what you are teaching tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate the intro. Huge thanks to Warrior Rising for having me, and to the 65 participants that I'm seeing here. Hey, thank you not only for finding the time to be here, but for making the time to be here. I know that just doesn't happen on accident. So it's very easy for people to kind of sign up and then walk away. So the fact that we've got that many people signed up is really great. So with that, we'll kind of get into the slideshow here. Sam, let me know if this isn't working, and then we'll kind of make that happen. But
You're
can
good?
everyone see this? Is this good?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, sweet. So again, huge thanks to Warrior Rising for having me and my company, Cape Lead. We'll talk about that just a little bit, but welcome to my masterclass on expectations. That's probably very vague at best as far as what that looks like or how that can apply to your world. But man, I really hope you get something out of this, because this has been life-changing for me, for as odd or perhaps as stupid as that sounds. That's what we're going to talk about. So we'll do a quick intro, just a little bit about who I am, our twisted understanding of expectations, how expectations shape all of our emotions, and then really how do we apply this in business. I've taken this to apply to all of our ships. If you've ever seen Lego Batman, it's pretty funny. He says Batman doesn't do ships, right? Relationships, friendships, or leadership. But realistically, the same skills that make us successful in one can make us successful in all three. A lot of times we have all these leadership skills and traits that we leave at work and we go home and we disconnect, and then that's it. But realistically, what we can do is use these, because leadership, relationship, friendship, it's all about how we connect with one another. And in a business sense, it's about how we connect with our customer. It's how we connect with our client. It's how we connect with the understanding of our product or our service. So all this ties into our expectations. So a little bit about me. This is me in a nutshell, as far as that goes. Top left there is my family pictures with those that I hold near and dear to my heart. So they're my reason for everything as far as that goes. As Sam had mentioned, you can see there in the bottom left, I was a career TAC-P, meaning I called in airstrikes for the Army units for like 22, 23 years out of my 25 years. And then there's a picture of me at my retirement ceremony, which is really great. Because I'm 12 years old, apparently, for those of you who may recognize the medal that's on my chest that I was just awarded, that's an Air Force Achievement Medal. And you may be asking yourself why a two-time Command Chief Master Sergeant wanted to retire with Achievement Medal. That's because I wanted to retire with 69 promotion points. Nailed it. So that is me, and that's what that is. And then the four pictures on the right outside, like you've seen my Cape Company logo, it's the one here. This is what I do. This is the communication system. I am also terribly humbled and honored to be the executive director of the Hunter 7 Foundation. The Hunter 7 Foundation is an organization that helps GWAT era veterans in their fight against cancer. And so whether it's cancer education, cancer screening, cancer treatment, we are there to help those like GWAT era veterans that are between 40 to 60 years old-ish. If you want to know more about that, please look up hunter7.org. Phenomenal organization as well. The two other militaristic kind of photos there are, I think, kind of two things that encapsulate who I am and the mindset that I still carry forward, 6.5 years into my retirement. And then the bottom right picture there is one thing I really, really appreciate about the understanding of business, about the understanding of expectations, and about the understanding of life is so much of what we do is not about change. I know we say change and change agent, but there's nothing about that tree that fell over. That tree didn't change. It's still the same tree, made up of all the same stuff. But what this tree did do was evolve. And I just think for us emotionally intelligent leaders out there, for us emotionally intelligent business people, we're not changing our product, we're not changing our services, we're evolving every single day. So I love that evolutionary mindset because it implies that we are in touch with our surroundings, we are in touch with the environment, we're trying to kind of get hold of all the variables that are impacting us right here, right meow, and make the requisite adjustments for us first to survive and then thrive. So that's a little bit about me. If you don't have these for your any classes that you teach or pitch deck, I highly recommend doing that just to give your customers, your clients, your people just a little bit of insight into who you are. This next quote, I'm actually a huge Steve Jobs fan, as it turns out, and so this quote from him has resonated with me because like you really have to be passionate about something, and as you'll go through this, you'll find that I'm a big stickler for words, and I believe in being very purposeful with our words because words is important. Ha ha ha. Right. But if we're not speaking with the right words, if we're not trying to communicate well, then all of our interactions are going to be off from the very get-go. But this thing, like the burning with the idea or problem, is this understanding of expectations. And for me, this drives everything. You saw it in that intro slide where all of our emotions are based off of an expectation, right, wrong, or indifferent. But we're going to get in that later. So this is how my journey with expectations started. It was deployed to Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan in 2012, and back at home station, deployed. Just had some weird leaders that just didn't get it. They didn't get the humanity behind the uniform. They didn't get the sacrifice behind service. And I was just getting wrecked, like mentally wrecked every single day because they couldn't get it. And I was getting frustrated more and more every day. And then for those of you who spend any amount of time there, I was jogging around like Route Disney there, going like the flight line, right by the burn pits, all that other stuff. Oh, I see people checked in. You're in Afghanistan 12. Nice. Some pretty significant fighting during that time as well. But in a moment of self-talk, before I even knew what self-talk was, I was like, why do I keep expecting my leaders to suddenly get it? Why do I expect them to change? Why do I expect them to evolve? And then in the moment that changed my life, I said, what is an expectation? And that simple question, as innocent and innocuous as that is, changed everything in my life. It changed everything in my relationship with my wife, my children, my friends, my love-hate relationship with the Cleveland Browns. Just kill me. But it really has affected everything. And so from there, oh, Hellman Pro. Oh, I've seen all the people chime in for all their deployments. Hey, thank you everyone for your service. So like to see, it's going to be overwhelmingly veterans, if not 100% veterans on here. So, thank you for your service and everything that you did on behalf of a grateful nation. But as I went through this, I was like, what is an expectation? And then I got back to my desk and I started Googling what is an expectation. And there's no good definition of it. So it was really twisted one way or the other, and you couldn't tell it. And it was, when you looked up expectation or assumption or anticipation, it never really defined anything. And then I really went on a very weird journey, which I'm going to take you on now. Right. So everyone here, if you wouldn't mind, inside the chat, just very, very simply say, what expectations do you have of something or some person right now? Because whether we like it or not, I think we need to understand that we are hedging our bets, that we have expectations of everything and everyone at all times. I live honesty. Okay. So I like that. Right. We have an expectation from honesty, clarity. So I like that as far as people, friends to call, respect, communication. Right. So like these are all like phenomenal people. I couldn't pay you to write better stuff down here. And by the way, I'm trying not to swear. It's in my DNA to swear. So I'm going to try and keep this professional, but man, I could, it's tough. So authentic, like I'm seeing all these great words show up and give their best. ownership, opportunity to excel. Like these are all phenomenal. These are great expectations that we have these for other people. Now there's a weird issue. So like when we go to this, so if I were to ask you two questions, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because you can't necessarily do this in this format. I just want you to think for yourself. How many people here know how important it is to set solid expectations? I'm sure that's a thumbs up across the board. I'm sure everyone gets it. I'm sure anyone that's been in any type of leadership position, one way or the other, would absolutely say that. As like the thumbs and the thank you. Right. So then similarly, let's do some more thumbs up. Right. How many people here have heard or used the phrase expectation management? Right. So thumbs up. Okay. Okay. No. Some yes. Thumbs up. Okay. So a lot of us, right, which is absolutely fair. So this has been my dilemma with those first two things. And in the military, when we're taught and trained on everything, like how many here can very distinctly give a solid definition of expectations? Right. That one's a little bit weak. Like that's not great, because a lot of times, like if you point to the definition, or like for a lot of people, like, oh, like two, like an expectation in some generic senses, what I think is going to happen. Well, an assumption is I think something's going to happen. An anticipation is I think something's going to happen. A hope is I think something is going to happen, as far as those things. Or for the people who said, that use the phrase expectation management, how many of you have ever been given a class on how to manage expectations? And for the past 6 years in retirement, every time that I've taught this, every time that I've reached out, like without fail, and there it is, not at all. Like no one has. Everyone says it, but no one's ever been trained on it, which is very weird in a military construct, and probably, or just, I would say, even a first responder construct. Shout out to Sam, right? So it's weird, right? So we've got this weird thing, like where we know it, but we were never trained on it, we were never taught it, and yet somehow we think it's going to happen. And that's what this like 14-year journey I've been on has helped me understand. So it's been really, really weird. So as an example, if you haven't read any of these books, I would highly recommend you pick one. So like screen capture this, whatever you can do. And again, a couple different areas, a couple different love start with why, like absolutely. So Renee, who just said I love Start With Why. Start With Why is a phenomenal book, and probably the seminal piece of leadership reading, second only to 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's according to Chachi. And but like the Start With Why. If we've ever asked ourselves why the why is important, it's because we're building expectations of everything and everyone at all time. We want to know why, so we can mentally figure out what's in store for us, what's going to happen. We're going to try and remove surprises. We're going to try and not get caught with our pants down, right? All that type of stuff. But so out of these books, when I buy these books, I buy them in paperback, I buy them in audiobook, and I buy them in digital. Brene Brown junkie, nice. Yeah, I think I only have one of Brene Brown's books. Two, with Daring Greatly. Atlas of the Heart is pretty good. She's got another one out that I'm actually going through right now. And actually, Atlas of the Heart has a section on expectations, but it falls a little bit flat. She too draws a distinction about expectations leading to emotions, but she doesn't define expectations, nor does she kind of list out the scale of emotion that's built off of this. But we'll get into that more in a bit. But in these 10 books, I did a search for some form of the word expectation, expectations, and that word is mentioned 100 times and never, ever defined. It's the craziest thing. Everyone talks about expectations and it's never defined, because like these are all these great leadership books and we all talk about expectations and leaders love expectations, but there's a weird thing that we need to talk about next. Because if you can, just take on your computer or phone right now, I just want you to Google quotes on expectations. And this isn't meant to be tricky. This isn't meant to kind of pull you away from this. By the way, this is like a big faux pas when it comes to speakers. Like you never ever draw attention away from the speaker and doing all that stuff. But bear with me, just check some of these out. As you look through these, overwhelmingly so, and I mean overwhelmingly so, quotes on expectations are all negative. Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, right. As people are copying and pasting, yeah, this is all negative shit. Sorry, I'm trying not to sort of like it's all negative. I can't believe this. This has been 14 years of unpacking this. Leaders love expectations, and the rest of the world hates them. Like, how can this happen in a professional sense, in a professional setting? How does this happen? How can leaders absolutely love them, but then when you talk to somebody else, like, oh, I don't want to have expectations. If you have no expectations, you're never disappointed. Like, well, that's not great. So this weird twisted understanding of expectations is what I've been unpacking for 14 years. So like here are some of my favorite. So peace begins when expectation ends. I think is on like one of these slides. There it is, right? So I say these. We I kind of I don't now, the Brene Brown one here, I'm going to tell you, breaks my heart. This woman, her research, her teachings, her books, her TED Talk, her Netflix special, her everything has affected my personal and professional life in so many ways that it's absolutely heartbreaking to see her having a negative comment about expectations. I think she kind of wound this back a little bit inside her book, but she didn't dive deep as much as I'm trying to kind of do this here. But again, like we just have this twisted understanding of expectations. And so that's what I want to talk about. And I do want to leave some time for questions at the very end for how this may impact you, your business, your services, your product, your sales, however that goes. I'm cutting some of the stuff out, but I do want us to understand what's happening here. So again, why is there this weird bipolar understanding of expectations? It's ridiculous. So before I teach you a thing, before I get into any of the scale of expectations or how this goes out, I'm going to give you a simple scenario. Now, I just turned 50 years old. I'll be the first person to admit that this scenario is not as apropos to me in my 50s right now, but like me in my 20s and 30s, this is that type of scenario, right? Not that I'm above, doing, my fair share of drinking. I just spent 10 days in Germany, then this last weekend in Cancun. But anyway, so let's say this. So let's say the Warrior Rising team is coming out to Phoenix, Arizona on a business trip, be there Monday through Friday. You're going to leave midday on a Saturday. So Sam calls me up and she's like, hey, Chachi, hey, the Warrior Rising crew had a very, very busy week. We want to go out for dinner and drinks tonight. Would you like to go? And I say, yes, like I adore Sam. I love Warrior Rising, the amazing people that they bring in and connect and help and all that stuff. Like that sounds great. But obviously I have to check with the wife. So I go to my smoke show of a wife, Allison, and I said, hey, babe, hey, Sam and the Warrior Rising crew are going to go out for dinner and drinks Friday night. Do you mind if I go? And she thinks about it for a second and she says, what time are you coming home? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't met them in person as far as that goes. Like they may have had a busy night. Maybe they just want to just kind of have dinner and then go crash. And yes, Allie is going to come with. Uh, or or maybe you're like, hey, we've had a super busy week. We need to blow off some steam. We're going to be out super late. So I want to hedge my bet. So I'm like, hey, babe, hey, worst case scenario, maybe I'm home at 2 or 3 in the morning after bars close. And so my wife thinks about it for a little bit and she's like, how about midnight? And I say, okay. Now, for most of us, for any of us who've been in any type of adult relationship, most of us have had this conversation in our lives. And at face value, it is a good conversation. I can go out, I can have a good time. And as long as I'm back by midnight, everything's fine. So, hooray for relationships, hooray for good, marriage, communication, all that good stuff. Other than that conversation was complete BS. It sucked. right? But we haven't been trained to identify what's at stake and what we're really trying to talk about. Because realistically, she says midnight, but she didn't say why. And we're talking about the why, start with why is super important, but presumably she's trying to curb my behavior. But number one, we didn't, talk about why my behavior needed to be curbed if we had anything else going on. And then two, midnight is completely arbitrary compared to my behavior. Because I could show up, back home at 2, 3 in the morning, totally sober, because I wanted to drive everyone around, make sure that they had a great time and yet got home safe. I'm no worse for wear, maybe just a little bit tired in the morning. That's when, right? That's rad. Or maybe one of you out there decided to start dinner and drinks off with shots, and now I'm passed out naked in my front yard at 10 p.m. at night. My wife comes outside and she's all pissed off. They're like, I'm the best husband ever. I'm home 2 hours early, and then I'm wrecked halfway through the next day. Like this is the type of stuff that can happen when we have that platitudinal level of conversation. But what I can tell you is now, like, even everything that you know about expectations right now, even even if you have right now a generic understanding that an expectation is what I think is going to happen, we can change this dynamic greatly. We can have the engagements we always wanted to. We can have the conversations. We can put everything out there, because now, rather than ask Allison, if I redo that conversation, it's like, hey, Sam and the Warrior Rising team are in town. They want to go out for dinner and drinks Friday night. I would really like to go. And here's where everything changes. Is like, what are our expectations for Friday night and this weekend? In that conversation, I will have just changed everything, because now it's up to she and I to be as open and as honest as possible. Put everything on the table so we can be home at 8 p.m. sober. No, Sam, no. Oh yeah, well, I'm sorry. Sam may be home at 8 p.m. sober, right? But like as far as this goes, like this sets the whole conversation, because now she can say, hey, we have nothing going on Friday or this weekend. Go out and have an amazing time. Or maybe she says, hey, I actually have a girls' night Friday night. If you can, help get a babysitter for our young kids, then we can both go out and have a good time, and it doesn't necessarily matter. Or maybe she says, hey, we're all good. We've got kids' soccer games tomorrow at 8 a.m. So do whatever your sleep can afford, right, to go out there. Or maybe we've got a packed weekend and I can self-assess and I can say, hey, Salmon team, I would really like to meet up with you. I'm sorry, this weekend just isn't it. I can maybe meet you out for dinner and one drink, right? But then I really have to get home. I apologize. I'll catch you on the flip side. But these are all measures of a conversation we would have never had if we hadn't been trained to think and communicate through the lens of expectations. And that one little switch, that little ish that we did, rather than just asking for permission, then going, talking about expectations, this is what we're talking about. And this is where the magic happens. And this magic happens across the business space, because we have expectations for communication. We have expectations for a product launch. We have an expectation for how long it's going to take to beta test a new program. It's going to, expectation for when the new hire is going to come on. So we have expectations of everything and everyone at all times. And when something doesn't meet our expectations, we're either or slightly pissed or absolutely furious. If something exceeds our expectations, I mean, we're like, oh, that's cool, or hey, that's great, or that is freaking awesome. Like, this is amazing. So all levels of emotion predicated off of our understanding that ties to expectations. So this is what they call the DIKW model for information. And so, this came out like 51 years ago, like right before I was born. And this shows the progressive understanding of information that we are able to bring in. And it's pretty rad. It's pretty great. So data point is a data point. Data can become information. Information becomes with knowledge. Then knowledge becomes wisdom. And the famous joke, it's not mine, but I love it. The difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is that tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is not putting that shit in a fruit salad. And so being able to understand the information that's coming in and this graduated scale of what type or what level of information is the absolute key. So these next three slides are really going to be the bread and butter of what I would like to teach you, what I would like to bring in for this masterclass. And this is really, really great because based off of this, we can understand our emotions better. And I'm sure there's not one of us that doesn't want more emotionally intelligent people in our lives, not to mention just ourselves. Number one, how can we be more emotionally intelligent? And then number two, like we want to make sure that we can help our team be more emotionally intelligent and how to navigate this crazy little thing called life. So my version of this that I finally put together back in 21, mind you, this is 9 years, like 9 years into my study on expectations. It took me 4 years to define them. And I didn't put the definitions in here yet. We can talk about that later, doing like question and answer stuff. Happy to do this, but I really just wanted to focus on just your current understanding of expectation. And this slide is really, really good enough to get you going in the right direction. So if there's an act or an event that is happening in your world, you can now train yourself to say, okay, am I assuming that this is going to happen? Am I anticipating that this is going to happen? Or am I expecting that this is going to happen? A prime example for two things that are happening this weekend is the Waste Management Golf Open here in beautiful Scottsdale. Actually, I live in Phoenix. Sam lives in Scottsdale because she's that classy lady, right? I'm just a bougie or like crummy suburb guy. And then also the Super Bowl on Sunday. So, people are going to talk about the expectations that they have either for the Seattle Seahawks or the New England Patriots, and whether they're going to expect the Patriots or Seahawks to win, or anticipate that they're going to win, or assume that they're going to win. And it's very weird because once you start thinking about, these people or like these words and how they use them, you get some insight to a level of certainty and emotion that they're tying to the outcome, which is really, really great. It should have been it should have been the Bears and the Broncos. Like I think that would have been a great Super Bowl as far as that goes. The Bears just kind of yeah, that sucks. Anyway, but off of this, and this works a couple different ways. Now the key here is that go Pats. I'm a big Pats fan as well, so yes, go Pats. Um, the key here is not always to get to expectation. That is not the goal of this chart. But these climb on this chart by the information available and past experience about this, right? So we have a lot of information and past experience of the Patriots going to the Super Bowl. But there's one big variable gone. It's not Tom Brady. So we need to adjust so we can say, hey, when the Patriots go to the Super Bowls, they win the majority of them. So we can have that expectation. But again, the information is different compared to our past experience. So that's a little bit odd. Seattle Seahawks are 1-for-2 in the back-to-back years that they went, but we have a lot of information and past experiences here about their record and the teams they play. Some people said they had a harder strength of schedule, which I would probably agree, although the Patriots did defeat some great, great teams. So like for me, I have no expectation for the outcome of the Super Bowl because I can't pinpoint high levels of information available in high levels of past experience that would lead me to believe one thing or another. I'm probably around the assumption level as far as this goes because these teams haven't been to the Super Bowl in years and years. So quite literally, this is just a first time experience, nearly a decade removed from their last Super Bowl together. So that's where I go with this. So because I can at the outset assume what's going to happen because I don't have the experience or the information, I don't have the past experience, so I don't have to get wrapped around the axle. So we can kind of figure this out. But what happens is we expect X is going to happen. If X plus happens, we're happy. If X minus happens, we are sad. And there's a graduated scale for us to understand this. So like going back to this is, if we have low confidence for an outcome and there's a small gap between the expectation and reality, then okay, meh, no big deal. We missed. That's fine. And the two levels of, hey, we had high confidence and there was a small miss. Okay, so I'm a little bit perturbed. And the same thing, there's a large gap but it didn't matter too much, perhaps. Okay, that's unfortunate, but not impactful. But then all of a sudden, we had a high confidence for an outcome, and there was a large gap. Now we're saying WTF. Like, this is absolutely crazy. How did we miss on this? So that's how most people think about expectations or think about the emotional impact, the emotional after effect of having expectations. And this is where everyone thinks it's bad. But here's the deal. It's not the expectations that are bad. It's our fault for not understanding them better. And by very generically labeling them an expectation. Because I only expect something with a high degree of certainty. Going back to the previous slide, see if I can do that, right? High degree of certainty is an expectation based on the information available in past experience. But like, I don't have that certainty for an assumption. So that's where people get screwed up is we start having expectations of people when they should really be at best an anticipation, at worst an assumption, and then overwhelmingly so, the fact that it's never communicated. And I hate to say never, but all too many times we have these expectations of others, of ourselves even, that we never communicate with people. And yet we hold them accountable to these types of emotions that come after the fact. You know, my wife says, well, I wanted Tim home by midnight, but now I'm passed out naked in the front yard, you know, and she's just pissed. I'm like, I'm home by midnight. She had an unspoken expectation for what was going to happen, or for that my behavior that went along with me being home before midnight. You know, so this is really, really like the nuts and bolts of how this plays out. However, on the positive side, because I'm a positive guy, I believe in positivity. I believe that the energy you put out into the universe is the energy that comes back to you. And like, for positive self-talk, right? The mirror won't smile until you do. So like, I love that mindset and mentality. But this, same ways, we have an expectation, or we have, expectation, and reality went above. Okay, there's a small gap. No sweat. High confidence at a small gap. That's not too bad. Low confidence doesn't matter. It was a large miss. Like, okay, simply, hey, this is surprising. What did we miss? Or we had a high confidence that something's going to happen. Thank you, Mike. And then there's a large gap. Like, holy shit! Like, this is great. What did we miss? How did we see this? So Sunday's Super Bowl could be this very thing, positive or negative. Like, hey, I think it's gonna be a very even game. There's a whole lot of variables. This could end up being a blowout, one way or the other. Like I honestly don't know. Oh, quick question there. Is setting boundaries the same as expectations? Christine, that's a phenomenal question. And going to the point about Brene Brown, a lot of what Brene talks about when she talks about boundaries is nearly synonymous with an understanding of expectations. I would say that a boundary is a type of expectation, right? So you're going to put out that expectation for what people won't do. But what people rarely talk about, because like we talk about boundaries, because again, like I'm the positive guy. We put out a boundary, that's an expectation for what we expect people to not do. But what we rarely talk about is like the opposite of a boundary, what people are calling glimmers, right? What is the glimmer? Like, hey, this is my free fryer area, right? This is all this open area that like I would want to explore, to go out there. It's like, hey, we put out boundaries, but we rarely tell people our glimmers, as far as that goes. And so, it's one of those things. So I appreciate that question. Again, like Brene Brown, to me, has danced around this. And if I can get a room with her for an hour, I think she and I could solve the world, for when it comes to the understanding of expectations. But yes, I believe rules. I believe boundaries. I believe glimmers. I believe like actions. These are all expectations that we have of people. A very similar question that I have about that for all of us military folks is, well, isn't that similar to task, condition, and standard? If we're going to train somebody on something, or we're going to give them a training event, here's your task, here's your condition, here's your standard. Is that an expectation? It's like, not necessarily. It absolutely could be, but in that context, in that scenario, the standard may be, absolutely, but really what I'm talking about is, what is my expectation for what's going to happen? What is my expectations for the cadre? What is my expectation for the students or trainees? And what is my expectation for the outcome? How many are going to pass? how many are going to fail, how many are going to struggle, how many of the events may be unfair or too difficult, how many are going to be too easy, right? That's how the expectations come into this. So that's how I have some of those conversations inside the military context and application. So getting into the last slide, I didn't want to talk too much. And again, like this is normally a 3-hour class that I give and put all this stuff together. So I think Sam, we'll send out my contact info if you want to have more of a conversation about this. Happy to do so. But as far as the role of Warrior Rising and what they're doing with our nation's vetrepreneurs, I couldn't be more intrigued. I couldn't be more excited. I couldn't be more in love with the process. I had the honor to be a judge at one of their business showers in DC back in 2023, and really had a great time. So being on there and watching some of the people go through and pitch their businesses for what they would pitch their products, pitch their service, expectations happen every day. I talked about that. Show of hands, or like do thumbs up again. Who here gets up in the morning and checks for traffic that they're going to encounter when they're on their drive into work or when they're going to the airport? Yeah, right. Some no. Dan Horgan, nope. Okay. Some yes, some nope. Fair. How many people check the weather for when they're retired? Nice. Uh, Chance Fairs are prepared all the time in New York, right? Fair. So how many people check the weather before they go out? Always leave it to chance all the time in DC. DC, I lived in Hawaii, I check that, all the time. But a lot of times we go out and we check the weather. It's a 50-yard walk. Travis, like my office right now is in the back corner of my detached garage from my home here in central Phoenix. So yeah, both weather and traffic. Depends, right? But like when we go some places, I want us to think the last time that you were truly frustrated in gridlock traffic. For a lot of us who've been in major cities or who travel in New York City or DC, or you're on the I-5 going in and out of Seattle, you're normally not pissed every day if you're in regular traffic. I-10, yes, absolutely. Like if you're mad at everyday traffic, that's fine. Like that, well, that's not fine. Like I don't get that because that should be the expectation. But most times when I'm really mad is when I plan accordingly to get from A to B and I check the traffic and everything's good. And then I go and then boom, by the time I get in the car, there's an accident and it's unavoidable. And now I'm in gridlock traffic and I am furious and I am mad. And the variable is just the traffic. An accident happened that I couldn't account for despite my best efforts. And now my expectation for traffic is off. And now I'm furious. Like when we're talking about stock market is all about expectations. What we think is going to happen, how well the crops are going to be, what the price of oil is going to be. The same thing with gambling. The people gambling on the Super Bowl, right? We're going to gamble on the over and under. We're going to gamble on the point spread. We're going to gamble on the productivity of the quarterbacks, the wide receiver, the running backs, the defense, the kicker, like all those things are expectations. How are we expecting them to perform? And the tough part about me, I think I mentioned I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. The misery behind being a Browns fan is the fact that the Browns keep it competitive. Like there's only a few games this year where we really got blown out, but we lost a lot of one-score games. And so like I went into a lot of those games expecting to lose, right? Ravens, yeah, dude. Like, the Ravens is always tougher. Like the past few years, we played them pretty tough, so that's been a bit odd. But the Ravens beat the pants off us. But for all these close games, I go into the game thinking that we're trying to be a Jets fan for an hour. Yeah, Thomas. Yeah, Jets and Browns, like hugs, brother, hugs. I don't know what we're gonna do if we just cry. Janice, yeah, Steelers. I don't want to hear that Steelers stuff. Like, crazy. Saints. My brother-in-law is a scout for the Saints. So that's kind of fun for us. And now the Browns and Saints apparently are playing in Paris next year. So it looks like I'm going back to Europe. So I'm sorry, not next year, but this year, this fall. Stop watching sports. No expectation. Fair. Right. But like even in business, when we're talking about return on investment, that's an expectation. That's something that we think is going to happen, which is fine. And again, we don't normally think about it in these terms. Browns and the AFC champ, the drive, yeah. I was a kid when that happened, by the way, in the mid 80s. I was 10, 11 years old, bawled my eyes out watching it live. To this day, I hate John Elway. Hate him, hate him, hate him. Oh, me too. Nice, nice. But yeah, like our ROI, all these things, this is all, yeah, yeah, I roll. I like that, but these are all expectations that we have when we do this. And so for everyone here who's a small business owner, whether you've been in business for 1, 5, 10, 20 years, however that goes, your expectations of your company can be assessed by information available and past experience, and being able to allow for the variables that are happening. The biggest variable that we can really point to in the recent past would be that of COVID. So everything that happened, how America had to adjust, how the world had to adjust when we are talking about product delivery, supply chain, inventory management, all of those things, that was a huge variable. And so America switched doing businesses in a lot of weird ways. And I say weird because I don't want to say bad ways, because some of those evolutions in one area meant destruction in another, and vice versa. So a lot of people were able to adjust. Yeah, food truck ROI expectation in the Oklahoma weather. Yeah, so that's like food truck in Oklahoma. Great, I love downtown Oklahoma City, but a hurricane comes, or I'm sorry, a tornado comes through. No hurricanes in Oklahoma. Tornado comes through, and then the business is gone in one bad thing. So as we talk about what this looks like, what are your expectations of your company writ large? Like what is your expectation for your profit? How are you evaluating what that is going to be, and why do you think that's going to happen on that scale, on that timeline? What is the information available? What has been your past experience, and what are the variables you are trying to account for that will let you get to an expectation for what's going to happen for your business? It may just be an anticipation, which is good. And for a lot of us starting out, it may be pure assumption. Who knows? I'm going to try something new. This may be an untapped market, right? Who knows? It may absolutely soar. It may fail. Who knows? But as we're going through this process, if we're emotionally intelligent enough to think about the information available, the past experience, and the variables we're experiencing or hearing about, okay, if we can write those down, if we can understand what's happening and what's impacting, then for the next venture, whether we're starting something completely different or expanding upon our great success that we just had, we can go back and try and figure out why. Where were we on the mark? Where did we miss? Why do we expect it to happen at some level? All phenomenal questions. And then the same thing for your product or service. You may expect your product to sell, you may expect your service to boom, but again, based on what? And I think there's a lot of great CRM, places out there that can help capture that data for you. In the social media space, you can look at likes, you can look at click-through rates, you can look at conversions, you can put all that stuff together. And these are all phenomenal things that businesses are using every day because they're trying to hedge their bets. They're trying to eliminate surprises because they want to have an expectation. And for my time working with Sam there at Black Rifle Coffee Company, even with Dan Horgan, I saw him on here, right? This is what the stockholders want. The stockholders have an expectation for Black Rifle's performance, which is why they do those quarterly earnings calls, which is why all of that happens, because they want the stockholders, right, to know whether we met their expectations or not. And so it's a very, very interesting thing. And then the last two slides there, I'll just kind of put it out there, and I want to leave some time for Q&A, is understanding why we expect something to happen, like to that level, or at that level of certainty, or based on the variables there. That's where your mental health and peace of mind can really be affected positively, because through my understanding of expectations, is I'm able to go through this and just step back and say, okay, something didn't meet my expectations. My first two questions are, what information and past experience did I have that would lead me to believe that it would have landed right there? that in and of itself is a very emotionally intelligent move. And that allows us to have a lot of great conversations, a lot of great critiques. If you've been to a military after action review, there's a lot of people like, they don't want to be judged during those things. No, it's just being critiqued. A judgment is you did that wrong because you're a moron. And the critique is you did that wrong. You may not have been trained to do it right, but you in fact did do it wrong. You may not have been trained. You may have missed the day that the training happened and somebody assumed. So there's a lot of reasons why you might have done that wrong. So it's not an indictment upon you, things of that nature. So I really wanted to put that out there. And again, this class was a little bit fast and furious. If you want to hear more from me, if it's not already in there, hit me up after. I'll stay in for a bit and I'll put my number and email in there. But we'll kind of go to answering some of the questions. I'll pull up the chat. Uh, so Monique Miranda to everyone. Okay, so those definitions are great. What I will say for everyone here is based on what I put out there is an expectation is the thought or belief that an act or event will occur based on credible levels of information and or credible levels of past experience. So when I put it out that way, like assumption, anticipated outcome, prediction, backed by past experience, culture, bias, like that's one of the closest things, right? That we're getting there. Same thing with expectation, it's getting there. An ability to support and communicate. But again, like as I put through those, like the expectation one, thought or belief that an act or event will occur based on credible levels. The anticipation is the thought or belief that an act or event will occur based on varying levels of information and or varying levels of past experience. And then assumption is the thought or belief that an act or event will occur based on limited levels of information and or limited levels of past experience. And then the one other kind of definition that always creeps its way into these conversations is that of the word hope. And I'm a huge fan of the word hope. To me, hope has the same definition of assumption, which would be, the thought or belief that an actual event will occur based on limited levels of information or limited levels of past experience. And then what I add for hope is and or evidence to the contrary. Because a lot of times we hope something is going to work because we've seen it try and work time and time again and it hasn't worked. So we're just going to hope it's happening this time. I'm not set on that definition, quite honestly, because I think it sadly phrases hope in a negatively spun context, and I'm a positively spun dude, and I absolutely love hope as far as that plays out. So I'm not quite settled there yet, but I would love to have collaboration on how we can work to define those words.
Hey, Chacho, we've got a couple questions in the Q&A.
Okay.
First one, how can we reframe our expectations after experiencing disappointment in a way that would encourage us to refine our process rather than choosing to not be optimistic and engaging in further expectations?
That is a phenomenal question, and really the question that underpins all of this. And really that question is, you got hurt by expectations before. So what I would ask is, why did you expect that to happen? You may not have had enough, like if it keeps happening, you keep having failed expectations, you may not have had an expectation. You may have had at best an anticipation or at worst an assumption that somebody is going to do this. And as it keeps happening, so like the less finite you get on that scale when you walk it backwards, then really what you're able to do is realize that's a level of certainty that you can prepare for. Like, okay, I'm not too certain, so I'm going to be off the mark here and there, so I don't have to hold myself, like judge myself too critically or others too critically when I know I don't have all the information to put it together.
Great answer. Next one, where would it be best to add expectations while building your business?
That is a phenomenal question, right? So what I would say is start with positivity and start with reaching for the stars. Like figure out what you want to do. That big, hairy, audacious goal should be your first expectation. Start there. If you want to be the next Simon Sinek, if you want to be the next Brene Brown, if you want to be the next Tom Brady, if you want to be the next Elon Musk, start there, but then realize that there's a lot of steps along the way. It's going to take time, and throughout this process, whether you have that hope, assumption, anticipation, or expectation, please never forget to give yourself grace in this process. It is exhausting. It is very, very trying, but giving yourself grace is going to be monumental.
I used to have a T-shirt that had a picture of an A10 on it, and it said "Sunshine and Rainbows." But I feel like that's the type of shirt that you should have because you are just sunshine and rainbows. And A10
I
would
always,
make sense.
yeah, yeah, no, fair. And for everybody else there, I have 5 daily challenges. And believe, like, these are the most excruciating things I do every single day. I want to be the most positive person in the room. I want to be the most emotionally intelligent person in the room. I want to be the first person to give benefit of the doubt, the first person to admit I was wrong, and the first person to prove I looked at the topic, the subject, the discussion, the argument, the fight, at least from one other person's point of view. And so like I would like to throw that out there as far as your daily challenges or your expectations for your behavior or mindset. It's the most excruciating thing you will do on a daily basis because sadly some people are justers. I try to be the least disturbed person. That's Hey, it's close. Baby steps, bro. Baby steps. That's a tall order.
What
It
you're,
is a tall
yeah,
order, but it's tough.
what you're doing will teach you to be the least disturbed person in the room.
Yes. Because again,
It just takes a while.
a lot of times we have these expectations that people will perform this, and that would be an expectation, but most times we just have the anticipation or the assumption that they're going to do it. So if we're emotionally intelligent enough to walk that certainty back, we can walk our frustration back before it ever begins.
Ooh, that's good. We got one more question. I own a construction company. We've agreed to terms with a developer for payment celebrated, but they didn't purchase. Gotten close many times and felt so certain it was money in the bank and it fell through. Now I'm so jaded. Even after we have get a signed contract and a deposit hits the bank account, I still feel like it can be pulled out by the opposite side at any time. This is the question. When can we celebrate without feeling like we're jinxing it? Because I know you have to celebrate victories.
That is a phenomenal question. One of the best questions I ever ask clients is what scar tissue do you have from previous leaders and or clients or products? And so once people are able to share that like you just did, then we can sit down. So I appreciate the caution. I don't want to jinx stuff. Again, as a Browns fan, I don't jinx anything, as far as that goes. But being able for ourselves to, number one, uh just accept the fact that we do have scar tissue. So I appreciate that question. And now that scar tissue has made you gun shy. So I absolutely appreciate that. But you know, there's a great quote from the movie The Replacements with Keanu Reeves, and it's pain heals, chicks dig scars, glory lasts forever. So, at some point you have to reconcile that you made that sale, right? You're going to move forward with it. Your awesomeness is out there, and there's nothing wrong with being humble and then also just celebrating and reveling in your own awesomeness.
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you all so much for attending and being here and asking great questions. I put Chachi's contact information in the chat, but to everyone who attended, I will send out the recording of this call as well as his contact information in case you missed it, so you can reach out to him. Well, we have time for one more question, which is the last one here. Um, Beyond initial buy-in, how do you ensure expectations evolve over time without leading to disillusionment?
Fair. So that would really go down to the initial buy-in process, whether that buy-in is inherent to you, inherent to the organization, or inherent to the product slash service. So I think breaking that down first is like, why did somebody join your organization? Right? Is they joined it because they wanted to work for you? Did they join because they wanted to work for the company? Did they join because they wanted to do this service, provide this product, put all that stuff together? So identifying that first, I think, is going to help roadmap out those next steps. I think the simple answer, from there is there's a great TED talk by Daniel Pink. Dan Pink wrote a great book called Drive, and there's two main points. One, he talks about salaries and how we pay our people, and I won't say that there. But brief snapshot is they talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Nearly every adult in their chosen profession, whatever that they're doing, they want autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So whatever you want to motivate from them, right? Whether they join for you, the organization, the product or service, make sure that you're providing them autonomy. You make sure they're given an opportunity to master it, and make sure you're giving them purpose along the way.
Amazing. If you are new to Warrior Rising, we're here, we're a nonprofit to help veterans and military spouses achieve success in business. And we hold these master classes every month on the first Wednesday of every month. And Chachi, you have been such an incredible, inspiring masterclass teacher. So, like I said, I will add his contact information to an email that goes out tomorrow. But do you have anything else you'd like to share before we end here?
Well, first, Sam, I really want to thank you for putting this together, and for the different platoon stuff that happens here in Phoenix. It really is an honor to watch you bring these veterans and first responders and their spouses together. That's absolutely rad. To the dedicated staff at Warrior Rising, the things that they're doing are changing lives. Hopefully, people here in this chat, like your lives, have been changed by what they do. And then for everyone here, whether you asked a question or not, you took time today to invest in yourself. And man, there's so many people that I see on a daily basis who never take that. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for investing in you, for caring about you. And whether you're doing it because you want to be better for you want to be better for your spouse or your children or your family or the legacy you want to leave behind, today is a great step in just, recognizing that you want to do more and learn more and provide more and all that stuff. So for investing in you, thank you.
I'm feeling energized. Who else is feeling like ready to go? Ready to go be successful and crush it in business. I hope everybody. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much for attending on this Wednesday evening and have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, everyone.